Hey everybody, this is Marianna Everson. I'm running for state rep in LD19 Southwest Washington because we need health care and we need housing and our kids need a good education and so do we. And we need an adequate wage to live a dignified life. And we're not getting that. Not everybody's getting that here. Most people are not. And so I'm doing a series of conversations with people that live in our district that are struggling and doing things and just making it work. And my first guest, or my guest today, is my good friend Rhonda Walker. She lives in Longview, Washington, and we met because we're struggling people. We're both struggling trying to get through this world. Welcome, Rhonda. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Marianna. I am very happy to be here and very happy to be able to vote for you, by the way.
I'm so excited about that. Okay, so I think that what we really need to do, what people really need to hear, is that um, we all have stories. We all are struggling with something, right? And so we've talked a lot about the things that we've been going through, and I wondered if you could tell me maybe the top two things that are hard for you, the two things in your day to day life that make like you just don't you've just made do, right, with something. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about a couple of things, start with one and we'll go to the other.
Um, Day to day, it is hard just to even get going. When you mentioned healthcare and everything, I have an autoimmune disease that attacks all my joints and eventually fuses them together. And so it just constantly is doing that. So I have a lot of fatigue, a lot of pain. Um, and it's hard to get around as much as I used to. So that's one struggle is just getting up and moving every day. Um, the other uh, is really feeling secure where I'm at, where I live. Um, Kids and I were homeless for about a year and a half when the prices uh, soared down in Clark County to about triple what they were. And I was renting at the time. Um, and the landlord ended up giving me 20 days notice to move because he wanted to sell it. And this was right after some big apartment complexes kicked everybody out so they can paint them and charge triple. So there wasn't really anything out there, especially, I mean, I don't make three times the rent anymore. It was just out of my ability. Um, so yeah, so I still don't, after all this time, even though been here in Longview for 3 years, I still don't feel secure. For one, I never know what the landlords are going to do. And,
Right.
fortunately, I do have some wonderful landlords here. Um, but yeah, I still feel very, very unsecure day to day, still not knowing if, we're going to be on the streets again.
So what kind of things? Where did you stay in that year and a half? What? How did you
It was
get through it?
hard. We just stayed with different people, people who offered, um, ones that I felt like would be a safe place to be. But the one thing I noticed that when you are going to somebody's home, um, you lose pretty much all sense of your own self because you have to conform to whatever's the household's doing. Um, and or you do end up getting in situations where people think that there should be more involved if they're helping you out. So there's times I felt very uneasy. Yeah, I ended up, and I still need to get away from it, but I ended up getting into this habit of piling stuff on my bed to a certain way, kind of like a wall of sorts, just to feel secure, because I didn't feel secure in the places I was at. I The kids were good. We would all pack together mostly, but they handled it much better, I think, than I did.
Do you feel like that has carried over even after living out on in your own place again?
Yeah, I truly do still have just trauma from it. I haven't
It's
dated
real.
in over 5 years because of all these things that happened. I don't feel open to getting close to anybody, and trusting many people. Um, very much so. Yeah, very traumatized, honestly. Still, definitely should be getting some counseling, but I can't afford that. Um, it's expensive.
Healthcare.
Healthcare. Yeah, so I don't know. Eventually, someday, I might be able to work through it to where I feel like I can be functional again in generally relationships with people.
Right. So when the landlord in was it in Vancouver or just somewhere else? Well,
It was
anywhere.
close
When
to
the landlord,
it was yeah, in Vancouver area,
yeah,
Battleground. Uh-huh.
okay. When your landlord gave you the 20 days notice and raised the rent, um, what was their motivation? I mean, what was the
Well, this is a tough story. So I was told that they were looking at uh, possibly selling it, and they started doing some stuff. But they told me they would give me a couple months notice because they wanted me to stay and still pay. And it was
right?
right. So they said they'd give me plenty of notice, and it would be after Christmas. It wasn't. We ended up moving days before, having to move days before Christmas. um, so 20 days. So they're acting, it was nice. They'll make sure they told me that they would give me enough to for a down payment and all of that. Uh, anyway, it was very just out. Anyway, what I was told didn't happen. They sold it quicker than they thought they would, and at this place too, their son and daughter-in-law were lived in there before, and then when I came in, they had stuff in the garage and things were in places, and they were supposed to come and get them. And during the time I was living there, they didn't. So we didn't have like full access to everything like we should have. But when it came to move, it was hard. I had to try to find as many people who can come and help me as possible because again, my disability, I really can't do a whole lot. And trying to get enough people in, and then having to try to get things together, plus also make sure nobody's taking any of their stuff. And I mean, it was actually just, it was horrifying.
That sounds so complicated.
It was horrifying. And we just threw everything in a storage, and I had it in storage for a couple of years because I could just, about a year and a half it took us. And then uh, this place out here, I did not want to leave Clark County. That was where I was born and raised. I was, lived in it. I mean, that's, my kids have gone to school. I mean, that's community. Seriously, community. I've volunteered in many different groups and organizations and sports and all these things. And my son just graduated from Prairie. I still drove the 40 plus miles down there and then back every day, so my son and my nephew Tyrese, who I have custody of, could still go to that school, because bringing them out here was not going to be beneficial. They're of color, so my son's black, and my nephew is mixed with black and um, Puerto Rican. Um, and out here in Cowlitz County and Kelso, I mean, there's a lot of racism going on here. Plus, they were very big into sports and football, and they wouldn't have had that opportunity here. And so, yeah, we just decided to just drive every day. And it was was the best decision for them. I did
Yeah.
bring my niece lives with me too, but she does go to school here now at Monticello Middle School. She started last year, and it was a good move for her. But the boys, it just wasn't going to be a good thing.
So like in my life, like every time I had to make these tough decisions, it was like one thing led to another. So I can make one connection in your puzzle, in that I know you had car trouble,
Mm.
right? You were driving these 40 miles one way twice a day to take the kids to school, and you wore out your vehicle, right?
Yes. So yeah, the vehicle I had ended up breaking down on I-5, um, coming back home, and we ended up. My son and I had to stay out there for a couple hours until I had to borrow money too to get somebody to tow us. And it was a long tow because it was like maybe halfway in between each
Mm-hmm.
from Vancouver or Longview. I still don't know if it truly can be fixed because it can't really. It takes I had some people tell me it's one thing another, so that's something that hopefully I'll be able to get somebody to truly look at. But it's still just sitting there. Um, and then I ended up buying just a car for a few $1,000s, and then I ended up breaking my leg, and I couldn't drive it because it was a stick. So once that got better, I went to drive it, and the first day I drove it, after that, the clutch and everything just is gone, is broke down. So that's at actually sitting at a friend's house there. And so now I have a very fabulous, wonderful friend who is allowing me to borrow a vehicle until I can figure out something more permanent. But
Right.
again, I do have money, but I don't have enough to save up. It really
Right.
is like making sure that the rent and utilities and food and what the kids need is done. So I mean,
Right.
I make sure those things are all done, but it doesn't leave really anything left over to save up enough to get a car.
So
So
am I echoing to
am
you?
I? No.
Okay. I just started hearing an echo. So as we go through this, like I, I'm I've totally like been where you were, right? I've just been there. Um, and so we just take it day by day. But in the last few years, I feel like I've learned some things to know that, like it doesn't have to be this way. You know, there's so many of us in this world, in this district, that live and do what you and I are doing and have done, right? Like I called it
We're in survival
the
mode.
shit storm,
we're
right? Like I
we're in
just
survival mode.
we're
There's moments we
reacting.
wake up, and you're right. We're constantly reacting. Surviving each day. I seriously tell everybody, I'm like, I know I have a schedule, but I truly don't know what will truly take place each day. I wake up and never know what's gonna happen with with everything and the kids and where our world is at right now. Um, it's a very scary time for sure.
All right. So I guess we're having some sound problems. We can hear each other. Maybe maybe we can Franklin can make some adjustments on the tech to make it a little bit louder. So let's hope that that can happen.
I turned up my volume over here, so I'm not sure if that helps or not.
Yeah, let's hope so. Okay. So we started talking about it how it doesn't have to be this way, right? We don't have to struggle like this. That it's kind of a plan for us to struggle this way so that we are too busy trying to survive to make any waves and make any changes to our life, right? To make any changes to our government, the way we spend, you know, the way we tolerate people making money off of us, and um, that's kind of what this campaign is about, right? Is to help people have substantive change in their life, just like things that are actually going to help them. So, like, there's no reason why you can't get the counseling that you need, because we can have a universal healthcare system in Washington that pays for that, that takes care of that, and helps you have that counseling that you need. There's no reason that you can't do that. The reason that you can't do that right now is because insurance companies and their paid politicians bar us from having a not-for-profit healthcare system, right? That's why we can't have what we need. That's why you don't have the best treatment possible for your autoimmune disease, right? There is treatment for your disease, but you can't afford it,
Yes.
and your health insurance doesn't pay for it.
Right. It pays for some stuff, but not enough. I don't have enough to truly take care of me correctly. So
Yeah.
I don't do it at all, because if I can't do it right, it doesn't work anyway.
Right.
When I first got diagnosed, I had excellent health insurance. I actually had double coverage. I was married at the time, and we both had full coverage insurance. It was actually great, and it was actually beneficial because they actually did take the time and take and do all the things to truly find out what was going on with me. When I know if I would have been on a different insurance that wouldn't have covered as much, or just one, they probably wouldn't have taken all that time out to do that.
Right.
So I was very thankful there. And I didn't have a worry. I mean, it covered everything. It really did. With the double coverage, I didn't have the out of pocket expense, but I'm supposed to be taking these injections that cost thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't know where it's at right now, but I know it was truly insane um, years ago. It's been a long time since I've treated anything of my illness, because of knowing what's all involved and not being able to take, to do it. So yeah, I just
So you just deal with it
deal every
You
day.
just
Yeah, yeah. I don't take any medications. I do smoke marijuana. That helps. That's my medicine. That and over the counter, like ibuprofen or Tylenol to get me going. But it's just hard, because I know that if I was able to take care of it right, I could do so much more. And I feel so very limited where I'm at. And I never know from day to day when I'm going to have a flare up, or what's going to be good, what's going to be bad. So it's hard to really plan a lot ahead of time. But I do the best I can with that. And the kids help out uh, quite a bit with when it gets pretty bad. Um, you know,
Yeah.
so I'm fortunate that they're older.
So I feel like I want to just say it out loud, that if you had healthcare that suited your needs rather than how much you could pay for it, that you would have a healthier, happier life where you could, like, make enough money to fix your car and live in a place where you feel secure.
I absolutely
Is that
100% believe
a good?
that. Yes. Yeah.
And in the richest country in the history of the world, when we can do this, every other country in the developed world has a universal healthcare system, where we can do this, and we can do it not by costing anybody more. Like, everybody will pay less than they pay now, right? And your insurance wouldn't be connected to your job, so you could go do whatever job you wanted. We can do it, but we don't, because insurance companies pay millions of dollars in contributions to our elected officials' campaigns, and they lobby Washington D.C. They, like, we saw it straight up in our own state, right? That
Right.
there's people who get healthcare insurance money at the state level.
Yes, actually, the representative, she's actually from Vancouver, where I originally from. Annette Cleveland. She is head of the healthcare, um, and she won't even look at these initiatives or bills that are being presented to her because of those lobbyist numbers. And she's been approached. I couldn't even tell you how many times about healthcare here in Washington State. So, we're just trying to apply more and more and more pressure. And I know that people will be looking and asking for somebody to run against her next time, um, because she's not um, opening, even opening up to see truly what can be done or what's in the bill. She won't
Yeah.
even look at it. And to me, that's not being a very good representative. I was not political before 4 or 5 years ago. I grew up in a household that didn't talk politics. And as they're getting older, my stepdad even said, like, he's just cynical now. He just doesn't, he's just not into it. It was Bernie that opened my eyes to how corrupt our system actually is. I knew that it was some corrupt, but I didn't pay attention. I just knew that we can't do nothing. Our vote don't matter. Da da da. But Bernie truly did open my eyes on how corrupt we actually are, and that we can fight against it. And that's when I came across Represent Us. A good friend in Vancouver, Nicole, shouted out and said, "Who wants to help start this up?" And it's about anti-corruption. It's the American Anti-Corruption Act. And that's where I learned that me, as just a mom who was very much, into her kids' sports, I was out there as either a team mom or very, that was my life. But I found out that just me, I could actually do something. It showed us how we can take resolutions, take these ideas, and bring them to our city council, our county council, and how we can start changing things locally. And then as I was learning more things, I'm like, well, yeah, that's how you win. You start winning locally and you start pushing it to get your state to do it. And then you start getting other states to hopefully get things passed federally. It at least showed me a way to where I feel like our voice can matter again. Because, our laws were originally in place where our voice was protected at one point, and our voice did mean something. But they've our legislatures, our representatives have little bit by little bit stripped those away to where we are today. And so we have to fight to get those back into place and fight to have our voices mean more than they definitely do right now.
Right. Right. So that's kind of where we're at with the campaign. I like what you said. You were just you. You didn't know a lot of stuff. You just wanted things to be better. You knew life was hard and you didn't know what to do. So you met, someone that showed you a way. So that's what I hope that we can keep doing, with the campaign and with, just our other relationships and the things that we do, is that we can help people understand that it's gonna have to be us that makes
Mm-hmm.
this change. You know,
I never
it's
thought I'd be
gotten so
involved.
bad.
I never
Yeah,
thought I'd
it's
be
got
here. Never once in my wildest dreams thought I'd be in politics. And then I
I know
realized everything is political. Your
everything.
everything. You getting your garbage picked up was a political piece. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's everything is. And so you've got to look at it at that realm, and we've got to realize you have to fight
right.
for what you want every step of the way.
That's right. Yeah, somebody said to me one time, "Is like, well, you think you're not really into politics? Well, your landlord is,
Yep.
your boss is, your teacher is, your hospital is, your insurance company is, all that. Maybe it's time for you to start." So I want to invite everybody out there to get involved in your community, get involved in something political, even if it's just going to city council meetings or the PUD meetings, or
Oh my
get
gosh,
connected
the
with
things that
other kind
people
of
don't
groups.
realize. Yeah, they don't
Yeah,
realize what goes on at these even city councils. So as we're building our connections here, and we have people who are dedicated to show up to every city council and keep an eye out. So if there's something that we all need to rally behind, to do that. But it's not a fun thing always for people to do, but it's a necessary thing. So even if you yourself can't do something, gather some friends around and say, hey, who can go to these things and catch us up and keep an eye on these things? Because the more that we stay engaged and have knowledge on what's happening around us, the better that we're able to help shape those changes that we need.
right, right. So I want to just keep everybody um, ready to fight, ready to come up and understand that we're going to be the ones that have to do this. There's nobody else is coming to save us. I'm not even like, I'm running for state rep, and I want to be your state rep, and I want to fight with, right alongside you to make sure that we have these things. But I'm not like the savior. I'm not the hero, right? I am part of a movement of people we are going to change these things. We're going to have a life that we can be proud of, that we can live in dignity, because it's the only thing we can do. It's the like for me is the like it's the only thing we can do. I'm never gonna give up and just sit back and let the big bosses, roll over me ever again. And I'm definitely willing to work with people. I'm willing to make sure that everybody's needs are met. But I'm not going to roll over, and I hope that nobody else will either. I hope you find that determination inside of yourself, and just start working toward making life better for yourself and your community. So, with that little rant, thank you, Rhonda, for being here, and thank you for sharing your story. That means so much to me, that you'd be willing to tell me such detail about the things that you have been going through. It means a lot.
My pleasure. It was a bit scary because I don't necessarily talk about things. I will one on one with
Yeah,
people, but I don't otherwise. So, but I do believe it's very much worth it. I mean, we all are struggling with something right now, whether it's health, whether it's
right,
insecurity of housing, insecurity of food, um, uh, so many things. Um, there are
right.
ways for us to get through this and together. And I
Yeah,
have to say, if it wasn't for reaching out or joining and doing some of these things, I probably would be just underneath my covers, ready to, just bawling, crying. I get hope every day because of the communities that we're all building. And it also make sure it's also good to hold, because it helps me hold myself accountable. Because if I don't go to some of these things and say I'll do something, then I'll slip back and stay within my own little world. So I do recommend, there's so many things, whether it's environment, healthcare, childcare, education, um, whatever it is, there's groups and people out there who will be fighting alongside you. And I guarantee you are not alone, no matter how rural, your area is. I guarantee you're not alone.
yes. You're not alone. I'm not alone. You're not alone. We're all in this together. So if you people out there, if you want to help us with our campaign, we would love to have you. My website is mariannaforthepeople.com. That's MARIANNA, the word for FOR, thepeople.com. And you can click to join to volunteer, where we need people making phone calls, sending text messages, talking to their friends, filling out postcards, or whatever else that you think that you can do. We could use your help, because you know what? Until we are all free, none of us are free. So let's make this happen.
So true.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marianna.
Good night, everybody.